Here's what happened, guys. Ownership is a good place to start for a series. In America, we have moved from a society of ownership, if that is owning your home, to owning the building that your business is located in, and have moved towards a society of renters and leasers. And what we have to ask ourselves as small business owners is our quality of life better now than in the past? And I would say no. The U.S. national debt is over $38 trillion. We have an opioid crisis, obesity crisis. We have a lot of depression, anxiety, and loneliness. I think of this generation coming up, Gen Z. Gen Z is the most indebted generation for their age group in U.S. history. And to look at the future of the economy, we got to look at our youngest generation that's entering into the workforce. So there is a lot of mess out there, but that does not mean we cannot clean up that mess. And it's really important as small business owners to unite to move forward, because what is happening right now is we are experiencing massive change. It is 65 to 80 years in the making, and we get to decide together, if we come together, what that future is going to look like. And I believe America's future is a small business renaissance. And that's going to take a lot of hard work. And with ownership, it is not for the weak. There is freedom and there's independence with ownership. Ownership of your life, ownership of your small business. But with that ownership comes a lot of responsibility. It feels like a Spider-Man quote is here. But with that responsibility, it involves discipline, hard conversations, seeking out the truth, and being honest and communicating that to others. And with this show, I've said it before, when something doesn't make sense, get curious, ask questions, and seek out the truth. So with this series of ownership, I want to set the stage for you. There's going to be 3 areas of focus. The first is the government, specifically taxes and unnecessary regulations within your industries. There are over 1,000 industries. And across those industries, there can be a lot of unnecessary regulations. So it's diving deep into that, but outside of that, it's also taxes. And I have this fear of the government, and you may have this fear currently of the government, but what we have to remember is the government is there to serve us. And with the amount of fraud that is coming out of Minnesota, which estimates put it at $9 billion, and then you have seen other stories coming out of Maryland to Massachusetts, California, this contract with the government, where if we were to do things right, then we are going to be rewarded, it is strained massively. And we have to now ask ourselves, is the answer to the U.S. national debt of over $38 trillion and to the issues in our cities and towns, is that more taxes for the answer or less taxes? And what you have to ask yourself, and we have to ask ourselves overall, is do we trust ourselves more than the government for how to spend our money? And when it comes to this country has a lot of generosity that's been given and has been taken advantage of. And so with the government, we got to look at the U.S. tax code. Over 4,000 pages for this U.S. tax code. We've got to simplify that down. Then it's looking at federal, and so the way we can do that is a federal income tax. And then we can also look within the states and the local municipalities. Look at taxes like hospitality tax, sales tax, tour tax, and ask ourselves, do these taxes make sense? Because I think we would be shocked. I believe we'd be shocked if we were able to see behind the curtains and see actually how much money it really takes to run a city efficiently, a town efficiently, a state, federal government. I really do believe we would be shocked at that number, and that it would not be the amount that we're paying in taxes. So that is one. The other area is our health, ownership of our health, and then getting deeper into that, the poisoning that we're experiencing with our food, our air, our water. the chemicals that get sprayed. We have to look at, does this make sense in the long term for the health of ourselves as small business owners, as we're building America's future, and then to the rest of our community, rest of our society. And then the third, when it comes to ownership, this series of ownership, is privacy, owning your privacy. There, as a small business owner, I mean, they got a lot of advertising, and so you can get into the habit of being used to just giving up this privacy. But in a world of AI and how we become more sophisticated as when it comes to technology, and then also with that, hackers have become more sophisticated. We got to now be questioning what makes sense, what boundaries can we put on AI and other technologies as a society, so that we are making sure humans are first. Humans are first. I would not be surprised if we start to have signs where it says humans only in small businesses. That would not surprise me if that comes up. But we need to have these conversations now in order to move forward and shape America's future and make America's future a small business renaissance. Because when small businesses are thriving, the quality of life of our communities improves. And so within this series of ownership, freedom and independence is there, but ownership is not for the weak. It is for the strong. And specifically, we also have to focus on important habits and values and understand our Western values of hard work, discipline, of being honest and communicating that to others, even if it means your reputation is damaged. Doing what is right, not as what is easy and convenient. We've got to make sure that when it comes to the easy and convenient, that's really important to highlight that again, we are not doing that over what is right. You know, it can be easy as well to go the right way, but most of the time it's not. At the beginning, that's the key, is in this process of ownership, there's a beginning where it can feel very hard to show up and be honest. If you have difficulty with that, that's one of my habits daily, is to not lie. And I struggle with that. But honesty is such an important value of mine, specifically relating to business. I've talked about that before here on the show, of my experience with the past event that I organized where 500 people came together. It was a social media conference. It's the largest event that I've organized. And I remember lying a lot to the community about how many people were attending that event. And I could feel that pain of lying. And so it's been a habit of mine daily to work on that, to not lie. And with taking that responsibility on for the habit formation process, it does take time. You can't skip the reps. So this series is going to be a powerful series for you as a small business owner, to understand how to take on ownership and to realize that you are America's future leaders. And that, again, comes with a lot of responsibility. But to put in the work to better our country and improve the quality of life of Americans, I believe that's worth it, to take on that responsibility. And to not just throw in the towel and adapt to the world around us, but to actually start to shape it, and to realize that you actually can shape the future, and to not forget about that. So I'm excited to continue to dive into this series, moving into this week. Also, I want to let you know, as a small business owner, if you want to connect with other small business owners in person on January 14th and 15th, 2027, you can join us in Charleston, South Carolina for a Future Fest. I'm really excited for this year's event, 2027. So next year's event, and excited for you to be able to connect with other small business owners who care about this country, that want to improve this country, and that love this country. Doesn't mean it doesn't have any problems. It's got plenty of problems and a lot of mess to clean up. But I do know that this country is the greatest country in the history of the world when it comes to generosity, our individual rights, to the ability to go after the American dream and the economic opportunity that is here, there's a lot of pain, but there's a lot of opportunity. And with opportunity, there can be reward. And it's up to us to move forward into that future and be able to provide more rewards for Americans. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.